often get the question, what is chronic fight or flight and what does it do to my body and what can I do to get unstuck from it? So we're going to make a series of videos kind of digging into these things so that we can walk through kind of all the ins and outs and help you along your journey. And this is really a passion project of mine because this is something that God took me out of after most of my life being stuck in chronic fight or flight. So I just, one of our key tenets here of Smile with Sarah is encourage others and trust the things that God has taught to you to others so that they too can then take their life back, step into their purpose, and then be able to help others as well. So this is a big passion project for me because the way that God was able to absolutely transform my life with different tools and different resources, just unbelievable. So let's get into what is chronic fight or flight for today. Okay, so when we're talking about chronic fight or flight, what we're actually talking about is a dysregulation of the autonomic nervous system. It's actually another form of something you may have heard called dysautonomia. Another name for chronic fight or flight is sympathetic dominance. Now, what that means is we are stuck in a sympathetic state, right? So what is that? So our autonomic nervous system is made up of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic is your fight or flight response. The parasympathetic is your rest, digest, repair, reproduce, all of that. Also, freeze mode lives over here. You may have heard of that, and we'll get into that down the road. So we are made up, like our autonomic is made up with this parasympathetic and the sympathetic, right? And the sympathetic, we don't want that to go away. This is a really important part of how our body operates and how we protect ourselves and how we have the get up and go that we need. But what's happening is we're getting stuck there. And when we're stuck there, that means we're not getting adequate time in parasympathetic, which is that rest and digest, right? So we need to find a way to restore nervous system flexibility, which means it's able to hop back and forth between the two without any kind of hesitation or any kind of gumming up the works, right? So we need to ensure that we restore stress resiliency or nervous system flexibility because we don't want to be stuck in one or the other. We want to be able to move freely through both of them as our body was designed to do. Okay, so our body is actually really designed to do well with acute stress. And acute stress, what I'm talking about there is those things where you have to slam on your brakes because the person in front of you did, and you have this adrenaline rush, your heart starts racing, you start getting hot, and then it's gone. And our body really thrives and maintains that stress resiliency when we have to go through those kinds of moments, okay? What it doesn't thrive in is constant chronic stress. And that is what will put us into a sympathetic dominant place. So if you do a Google search of chronic fight or flight or sympathetic dominance, they are the same, okay? This is the same sort of situation here. And so when we have environmental stressors, we have life stressors, we have toxic environments, toxic food, all of these things sort of bombarding us all day, every day in our lives. And then we have viral infections, and we have pregnancy, and we have menopause, and we have caregiving, long-term caregiving. I mean, there's so many different things that can happen around us and in us that can put our body in this place of being in stress constantly. When we are in that kind of a breakdown, really, we get stuck because our body is in that space the most. It gets kind of stuck there. And when we get into fight or flight our body will pump out cortisol and adrenaline, your stress hormones, to give you what you need to go do the things, right? To protect yourself, to get away, whatever it is. And then once we come out of that fight or flight, we go back into rest and digest, and our body knows how to take all of that cortisol and adrenaline and metabolize it and do with it what it needs to do. I don't understand all the ins and outs of how it does all of that, but I know that it's supposed to take all of that and put it where it needs to go, right? Clean up the mess and put everything back. So when we are stuck in a sympathetic dominant place, that the level of adrenaline, cortisol that is being released into our body is more than our body is meant to deal with on a constant, continuous basis. And so we create this thing called a cortisol storm in our body, and this cortisol storm has the ability to wreak absolute havoc on our bodies inside. And then that absolute havoc leads to like just an insane level of symptoms that are emotional, that are mental, that are physical, that are all of the things, behavioral, all of these things can be affected because now our body is in this cortisol storm state, and it creates dysregulation to the entire gut-brain axis, and we'll talk about that in another video. And that is the core of how the body works. Okay, so chronic fight or flight has the ability to render us completely inundated with symptoms because of the vast ability to dysregulate the core of how our body works. You're finding yourself in a place where you have symptom upon symptom upon symptom, and nobody can figure out what's wrong with you. I did this for a very long time with no answers. Then this might be the channel for you, because we're going to dig into all of this. And I would encourage you to go do a little research on chronic fight or flight or sympathetic dominance. But we're going to break it all down here. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you like this video, and save it, because you're going to want to reference back to some of these things down the road. And hey, honestly, if there are people in your life that you know need this, please share this channel with them. Share this video, because the goal here is to use my mess and turn it into a message. God is doing that through me, and to help as many people as possible to be thriving in their lives so that they can do the good works God prepared in advance for them to do. So thank you for being here today, and we'll see you on the next one.